Kick it off.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Beyond the Card, a discussion on how mobile access and cloud are future-proofing security, physical security. I'm your host, moderator, and part-time kitten herder, Brandon Ford. I'm a sales engineer for Genea, the world's greatest cloud access control platform. If you're looking for any last-minute Christmas gifts or want to do any customer a solid, free them from that hardware hostage or upgrade, breathe new life into that Mercury hardware, swing on over to go.getgenea.com. The gift that keeps on giving all year long. And with the gratuitous plug out of the way, I'd like to kick off today's discussion. And joining me are Phil Coppola and Tim Nyblom, two of the smartest guys in the industry, two professionals who need no introduction. But because we may have some folks who have stumbled across this in between their binging of sneezing pandas and screaming goats. But before we do that, I'd like to remind all the folks in the chat, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to add them, and we'll do our best to answer them. And without further ado, I'm going to kick this off with the pride of Syracuse University, Mr. Phil Coppola. Phil, how are you, sir?
Oh, living the dream, as I always like to say. I'm doing
Good.
great and very happy to be here. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. So, um, what do you, Tim? How about yourself, sir? Give us a brief introduction.
Yeah, no, thanks, Brandon. Thanks to the Genea team for having us. Excited to be here. I serve as the director of end user business development for higher education vertical here at HID. So, we basically help college and universities modernize their identity, the access, the security ecosystems. I have about 2 decades of experience in higher education technology and this mobile transformation journeys, and love bridging strategy and execution and trying to get campuses connected and mobile first. Happy to be here.
Tim, it just occurred to me I didn't actually introduce myself. I just assume that people know who I am. Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Coppola. I am the mo- mobile evangelist at HID. I am also the director of end user business development for mobile here at HID. I am on the end user business development team, and my team's goal is to make sure that everybody knows what a mobile credential is, whether that's an in app credential or an in wallet credential, and specifically for this conversation today, how all of that interplays with partners like Genea.
Awesome, man. So, with both of your backgrounds, what trends are driving organizations to, rethink their physical access control? In my perspective, when I'm in these calls with all these end users, it's these return to office mandates, right? They're wanting to know, can they do it efficiently? Can they do it effectively? Uh, Workflows that kind of entail all that, right? Because when people come back, there's all these things that they have to do, email addresses, giving them access, tying them into other systems. And now with the big buzzword AI. Um, how about you, Phil? What are your insights onto that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Mobile is one of those things that I think is a little bit misunderstood still today. It's the thought of, well, I have this physical card, and I'm going to put it on my phone, and yeah, that's part of it. But I think the real driver that's leading end user organizations, whether that's a university or an enterprise, is around sort of this thought of a transformative experience, the thought of this new user experience that includes both the person with the phone as well as the organization, and what advantages both parties or all parties involved can realize when they do transition from this physical storage container now to a virtual storage container, and what that looks like when we put it into an app or onto a wallet.
And Tim, off that same, what are you seeing in the higher ed space when we're talking about moving to the cloud and having everything on that phone for that student?
Yeah, the buzzwords that you'll hear right out of the gate, Phil even hit on it, is right student experience, user experience, improving efficiencies, automation, all the data that it provides. But one of the things that I like to talk about when I'm talking to campuses is the reality is most of what is happening around the identity and the credential is everybody's still stuck on Jurassic Campus. Like change moves so slow. So we're talking, legacy infrastructure, technical debt, no buy-in from leadership, healthy dose of we've always done it this way. And at the end of the day, you have to think about who is coming to campus now is these digital native students. And I think you're starting to see like the conversations and the light bulbs going off with leadership on campus is saying, okay, this generation is coming. Mobile is here. It's not like it's coming in 5 years. It's already here. How do we prepare to get there? So that is what a lot of the talk is about these days.
I love that framing, by the way, Tim. Jurassic Campus,
It's
because
a new thing I'm working on.
yeah, I've been noodling around with some other ideas and some other buzzwords. That's a great one. And you know, your point couldn't be any more salient when we think about like these digital natives and these this new generation of students entering the campus and then eventually entering the workforce. And you look at it through the lens of like your day to day life, where in my day to day anyway, I live here in the great state of New Jersey. The only reason I still have to carry my physical wallet around is because of my driver's license. Everything else, American Express, my company credit card, my debit card, my loyalty programs. I just went to go see the Radio City Rockettes over Christmas, and my tickets were NFC tickets in my Apple Wallet. And taking the train, tapping to get onto the subway or onto the bus, mass transit, getting my bagel and coffee, I'm tapping. Everything I'm tapping until we get to the Jurassic campus or the Jurassic Enterprise, where there's still prox only readers on the wall, or there may be some legacy technology. And I would love everybody watching this to consider your own buying habits. Like for me, for a while, when Walmart and like Home Depot and Lowe's didn't accept Apple Pay, I stopped shopping there. I went to go shop at Ace Hardware for my hardware purchases because they took Apple Pay, and it wasn't it like it's like these little things where if I've got to take out my wallet, that's now an inconvenience. You might say, oh, that's kind of a first world problem, but to your point of these digital natives, this is the expectation. And now we ask them to come to a campus and spend a lot of money on their education or enter into the workforce and spend a lot of time in these buildings. And we're giving them this experience that is actually antithetical to everything that they do in their personal life,
Correct.
which I think is crazy.
And really, I like to say this like, here's the hard truth of this. We shouldn't be forcing the next generation to live in our worlds. We really need to build theirs. And this is the expectation that they have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Shout out to Transact and more importantly, Dan Lewis over at Transact, man. Those guys have classically conditioned college students for the better part of a decade now with their one card solution, right? And to Phil's point, now even when I do an Amazon return, when you take it to Kohl's, they actually give you a return slip in your Apple Wallet, right? So you're not fumbling around through emails trying to find out that return QR code. It just goes straight to the wallet. So
Yeah,
I
that
think,
happened to me the other day. I had to return something on Amazon, and I got the QR code in my
yeah,
wallet. And like buildings in New York City, your visitor pass is a QR code, and even that's now landing in the wallet. So like it's all aiming at the same place. One of the words, Tim, sort of like Jurassic Campus, which is this word is not nearly as good, but I've been noodling around with this whole idea of the way we've always done things, because we always keep coming back to this. It's oh well, we've always
Right.
just done cards, or we've always just done procs or magstripe or this or that. And the word that I settled on is tradition. And there's so much involved in that word of tradition, and it can be worn as a badge of honor, but it can also be looked upon as like, I understand that was your tradition, but it's not the tradition anymore. We're kind of growing up and we're growing past what it is that we've always done. So maybe it's time for new traditions.
yeah.
I like it.
I'll pass this to you first, Tim, and then Phil, and then Tim. I'd like to get your input as well. Since y'all have these conversations with these end users, what are the biggest pain points and risks tied to these physical or these legacy on-prem solutions that you are seeing and that you're trying to address with these end users?
I'll take that one first because I think my experience is slightly different from Tim. So Tim's is dealing in the university all day, every day. I'm more on the enterprise space, and really the risk associated is in terms of lost cards, right? Every enterprise will tell you They lose cards every day, or people just forget them. And it's not that's not necessarily a risk, but I would frame it as a risk to the business just in terms of lost efficiency, lost time and productivity. Every time somebody rolls up to the visitor desk and say, "Forgot my card again today. Can you print me a new badge, give me a temp badge, blah, blah, blah." These are all resources, and the biggest resource is time. Now, I was actually, again, I was in New York City last week, and we were with a commercial real estate company. They had deployed mobile access in their base building, and they were telling us a story that kind of validated some of the things that we thought were happening, but we'd never actually seen it happen. And it's they provision visitor cards for visitors to go into this building. And what they found was that people were throwing the cards out. So, like, they weren't handing them back. They were literally leave the building, toss it in the garbage can. Now, the problem with that is the card is still active until the end of the business day. So it's still active until 5. If they leave the building at 1 o'clock and throw it in the garbage can, technically that card still works. Well, they actually found somebody dug through the garbage, picked up the card, and walked into their building. Now, that's not just risk, that's vulnerability right there. Now, I don't know about you guys or the folks watching here, but nobody's throwing their phone in the garbage. At least, no reasonable person is throwing their phone in the garbage. Tim,
Yeah.
what are you seeing in the university space?
Yeah, I mean, similar when you talk about lost cards, right? When you think about a student's life, if they lose a card, there's chances that that card does not get reported for weeks. They may go back to the card office and get another card. If they lose their phone, that is immediately going to be someone's going to be notified, right? The credential can be revoked. The security of the system is back up. You talk about kids giving their cards to their boyfriend, girlfriend, friends, whoever may be there, right, to get access into a building, who has access and who doesn't. On the financial side, where they're paying for a meal or giving that type of stuff. So, it's those conversations, right? Students are not, they go to the bathroom and don't leave their phone, but they'll leave the card, right? Anytime that they walk out. So it's just that ongoing conversation around security.
Yeah. And when we look at it from a security perspective, let's not lose sight of the fact that how much time are they getting back, right? So to provision a card for someone instead of having to reprint it, and then all the other things that you factor in with a physical card, the time to print it, the ink to print it, right, and the cost of the cards, and then the security vulnerability that they can be cloned, because for the better part of the last 2 or 3 decades, we've been using prox cards, which you can go to any kiosk, even locally here in Texas. Our supermarkets have where you can go copy those cards. So I think that
Well,
it
and
gives them. Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
oh, I'm sorry, Brandon. I didn't mean to cut you off,
Yeah,
but
no, go ahead.
I I think that there's also a risk, not necessarily from a security perspective. Like as security professionals, we always think about the security of the building and the security of the people, because ultimately these are life safety systems, and we need to ensure that we keep the bad people out and the good people and bring the good people in. But I think that there's also a risk of being left behind technologically. Like again, Tim, I love your term of Jurassic Campus, because what the Jurassic Campus does and what the Jurassic Enterprise does is it prevents the best and brightest from attending. Because if your competitor campuses, your competitor commercial buildings, your competitor enterprises have thought about these digital natives and said, what if we give them an app that they can use to not just get in and out of doors, order food, meal plans, student ID, like all this stuff is just part of the whole experience. Well, then not going there means that you're potentially going to lose a certain clientele, a certain level of employee, a certain level of student to a university or an enterprise or a commercial building that has done this. So, and I'm not saying that to like scare people and say, if you don't do this, you're going to lose people. But I think that that is actually going to become a reality, because let's face it, which if I were faced with going to a college, and colleges cost what they cost, which one am I going to go to? The one that has this really cool experience and I can order DoorDash through my phone that's linked to my student ID and it takes off my meal plan? or the one that's going to give me a card and doesn't have any of that. I think that's a real risk.
Yeah, and when we look at the mobile credentials, does vendor lock-in play in any part of the flexibility of these campuses moving towards this type of technology? Have y'all seen any pushback because, well, we don't want to be held hostage or, be reliant upon this type of credential? Are y'all seeing any kind of pushback from that argument, that perspective?
Tim, you want to go there on the
Yeah,
university side?
when you think about these universities, the way I like to describe it is they're basically like mini cities, maybe even big cities in some cases, right? So they've grown up in the last 20 years buying hardware and software solutions in their little box. Like what department do they work for? What's their area of responsibility, right? And they've never really thought about the big picture when it comes to identity, the credential, the security, and the access space, right? And I don't think anyone did this intentionally, but everybody's been so focused on what works well for their system. So depending on what campuses have purchased in those hardware and software solutions, right? Are they boxed into a corner? For certain innovation, do they want to be able to do stuff? But the reality is they're kind of stuck, right? It's a massive capital project or a massive lift to migrate to more, innovative solutions like mobile credentials. So again, I think it just goes back to the history of our physical access control world that we live in. And then it kind of pivots over to the campus side is we know campuses tout that they are modern and innovate and they care about their brands and they want to do all this fun stuff, right? But then some of the systems that they have is literally boxing them into a corner.
Yeah, and with the 900-pound gorilla that being that Mercury is in our industry, right? I mean, it's used by dozens and dozens of software providers. What role are they playing in this interoperability with your solution?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So like when you think about a mobile credential, of course there are two options there. You can go with an in-app credential or you can go with the mobile wallet. Both offer their own unique advantages. For HID, the only thing that we really need to be compatible with that credential is the reader. Once the reader sees the credential, to the reader it's just a card. So when it gets up to the Mercury panel or it gets up to the panel just sort of in general, the panel is the thing that's making the decision. But if that panel is ancient or it's proprietary and doesn't support integration, let's say, with other systems that require integration in order to get the wallet pass into the access control system, well, that's a problem because now you're staring down the barrel of, to Tim's earlier point, a major hardware investment and upgrade. And the beauty part with Mercury is that there's so much choice. I think at last check, there's something like 30, maybe more than 30 OEM partners, basically access control platforms that leverage Mercury hardware as their primary go-to. Now, let's all be honest with ourselves here. They also work with other access control panels, and as they should, right, to offer even more choice. But that's sort of the point. The access control system software that you interact with every day, that's one piece of the puzzle. The other piece is that panel hardware, and if it's locked in, well, it's really hard to break out of. Whereas in the Mercury space, if you decide to go with company X and then they fail to innovate or they don't incorporate a feature, or like one of Genea's great advantages is cloud first or cloud based. Well, if that platform doesn't do that, well, you can easily migrate that Mercury panel over to a different piece of software, which also brings the added value, in my opinion, in that it forces folks like Genea to continue to innovate because
Mm-hmm.
they know that they have competition from 30 other brands that are all nipping at Genea's heels. So it's actually better for the industry to have this sort of free choice program from a panel hardware perspective.
Yeah, freedom. I like to say freedom, choice. Right now, you're creating long term value. And let's be honest, the hardware is one of the most expensive parts of any access control system, right? Universities can invest with Mercury knowing that it's confidence, they're free to change. To Phil's point, if somebody is not stepping up and doing what they promised or they're not innovating, then they don't have to rip and replace. And one of the things we're seeing too with the mind shift on university campuses is there are a lot of legacy systems and hardware right now going end of life. And it's actually forcing institutions to actually take a step back and be like, hey, is there actually a better way to do this? And they're starting to ask a lot more questions, right? Understanding what they're doing. Cybersecurity now is right such a big deal. How Mercury plays in it. So some of these systems have just been there for so long that it's really been eye-opening this past year. And there's so many conversations happening about what is best for the institution going forward.
Do you guys encounter, I guess this is probably more for Tim since it's university focus here. Do you see kind of reluctance to move forward because they equate all of their antiquated hardware to having to be done just to use that mobile app instead of just this may just be a reader thing that we have to do, but because we have all of this really old hardware, man, that just we don't even want to talk about it because it just gives us nightmares. Do you see any kind of pushback of like, hey, we it works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it?
For sure. And, I think that's just the challenge of the world we live in, right? And where folks are scared of change. Um, they'd rather, there's a quote I like, they'd rather live with the pain that they know than move on to what they don't. And they just kind of deal with it. And again, it goes back to how the universities have been built up over the past 20 years. Where we've seen success is someone has to own this, right? Someone needs to take responsibility and understand how this can actually benefit and transform the campus. Because, like we talked about in the middle or early, right? It's not about just putting a mobile credential in the wallet, right? And that's cool. It's about all the integrations that are happening on campus, all the inefficiencies, and if you're able to show a new way to look at it is let's show who's winning, right? We can make the argument pretty easily on students. Like this is a no-brainer, right? But let's focus on other areas like campus IT. And why I say that is when you go mobile, cloud, right? What Genea is doing, this is really IT centric projects. And we go back to the Jurassic Campus, and Phil, hopefully you see where I'm going. Like I call it like the first step, let's bury the dinosaur. They manage everything on campus that connects people, data, and doors, right? They have to keep the lights on. They're burned out trying to manage all these crazy systems, right? They're running on fumes. They didn't sign up to do this. They want to innovate. They want to do really cool things. So we as, manufacturers, vendors, partners, like we need to be able to free them and help them get them to where they want to be. Like when IT wins, literally everyone wins. Friction disappears, access becomes instant, security is like invisible, and everybody moves through the campus, whether you're a student or administrator, and it's just so much more efficient. And I think we have to reshape the conversation around not just the students are winning, right? Who else is? IT is a perfect example, and I could go into many more card office, campus leadership,
It,
and but it's just, it's just start thinking about it that way.
is there one use case that you see resonates with these higher ed folks the most? Whether like, hey, we're going to give you back some time on issuing cards, or we're going to simplify this workflow. Is there one thing that you've seen that really that light bulb moment for them?
Yeah, I think it's the efficiencies of nobody talks to each other, or in some cases, right? It's very archaic, right? You may have to get a card at a card office, and then you got to walk over to public safety to get access to another system, or you got to go to a copy and print and get another card for whatever. It's like the amount of integrations and data that has been going back and forth is really non-existent in a lot of campuses. Now, some campuses have done a really good job of this and have manual processes and are doing great work. But I think it's the overall efficiency of how the campus now communicates with every other department. Because at the end of the day, I've been saying this for years, the credential is the lifeblood of a campus, and it often is just an afterthought of everything else. You can't get into a building You can't eat. You can't pay for books. You can't go to the rec center, right? Just think about it. Even without mobile, most people are using magstripe cards, maybe Prox, iClass, Desfire, COS, right? You are using that card everywhere. And the reality is that credential is key to the castle for everybody on campus, whether you're a student, faculty, or staff. And folks need to start thinking about it in those terms that this is a foundation, right? This isn't just an afterthought. Like people make jokes, oh yeah, the card office is in some basement. Like I gotta go find it. It's in a hidden. I don't even know where it is. Right? It's at the bottom of a campus rec center. The reality is the identity is the foundation of life on campus, and that identity is now going to mobile, which is part of cloud and IT and cyber and access, and all of this blends together.
Well, and I think you're hitting on something here that I don't think many people, including myself, up until you just mentioned it, realized is that with that card, whether it's Magstripe, maybe it's a multi-technology card, right? It's got RFID, it's got Magstripe, it's got a barcode. I know there's lots of universities that sort of fit that description, and maybe that RFID is Prox plus
You're
something
right.
else, right? So you could have 4 or 5 credentials on this one piece of plastic. The IT department is involved in every single one of those, right? If
Correct.
it's the barcode at the library, guess what? They're managing your identity there. If it's the access control system where you're using Prox or iClass or CIOS, well, they're using you're in that system too. If it's the meal plan, well, it's that system too. So you're asking the IT department to manage basically the same individual 4, 5, 6, 100 times. Where and this goes back to my earlier point about tradition. Well, we've always
Correct.
done it this way. This is the way we've always done it. Well, if we go back and we say, all right, maybe this is no longer a security thing, it's an efficiency thing, it's a lifestyle change, it's a new experience for everybody. Well, who can help us with this? That's when you bring the IT department in. Like one of the questions I get asked all the time is like, what's the one piece of advice you would give an organization if they're thinking about mobile? Is communication. Engage the stakeholders, the critical stakeholders like IT, security, facilities, one card folks, meal plan folks. You engage all of them, get them at the same table at the same time to explain the efficiencies, and then all of a sudden the objections, the lack of budget, the lack of executive buy-in, all kinds of melts away. And I think the one of the best examples of this, I won't mention the university, but Tim, you'll know who I'm talking about. I went to go visit you there, and we walked through the old one card office, which was decommissioned because they had gone mobile. It's 20 or 30,000 students, I think, or 20 or 30,000 card holders. And what they would tell us was during peak time, like when the new semester was coming in and you had this big freshman class coming in, you'd have a line of students out the door stretching down the quad, and it was an 8 to 10 hour operation for a week just to get everybody's picture taken and everybody's card done. They transitioned to student ID and wallet. They decommissioned that office, moved it off campus. They still print cards, but for a much smaller population. And they're able to realize all sorts of ROI just from that one simple change. So, but it's really important. You said something else earlier, and that really resonates with me about change. The pain of change has to be less than the pain of staying the same. And when you
Right.
really point out, like, look at all of the stuff that you're doing to keep these systems alive. You're keeping this campus on life support, basically. And if one thing fails, we got a big problem. Well, we can change that by making this investment into mobile, into a more modern credential standard. Because Tim, to your point, the credential is sort of the lifeblood of the campus, and I would argue also for the enterprise and in the commercial space.
Yeah.
By making that one small change, you realize efficiencies that you'd never thought of.
And Tim, when we look at it in practice, what are you seeing for that student experience on that when they, are interacting with this one card or the mobile credential that they have now?
Yeah, when you think of the student experience with mobile, right? We already talked about like the card office line. Like usually, their their recognition or pride, right? They show up, they get their card, and they're now part of the university, right? Well, with mobile, they could be a part of it the same day they get the acceptance letter. They can log in, provision a mobile credential, and hey, I'm Phil. I go to Syracuse University, right? And I am now part of that community and I feel validated, right? So then that's just the early stages, right? So now you go to campus, you don't have to go to a card office, you don't have to wait in line for an hour. Students don't want to talk to people most of the time. They don't have to engage, right? They can walk in with their parents day one, access to the building. They can walk across to the dining hall, eat that day, right? Orientation sessions. Um, just however they navigate their normal life, right? They're already using Apple Pay, Google Pay, Cash Apps for other stuff. They're using their phone. And one of the examples I have is I was at a Christmas party last week with some friends, and a friend of the family. They have a daughter who's 20 that went to a university when she was a freshman that actually had mobile ID. She transferred to another university that does not have mobile ID, and she was so aggravated, and I was laughing and talking whatever, and she's like, why, I don't understand why my campus has it. And it is an HID campus, which is another thing, and I won't mention it, but I basically said, I can help you. Like, go walk into your card office, like, and we're having these discussions, like, go explain this to them. Go explain to your student government association. Go to explain to any campus leader. And she understood the pain point. She's like, I can't tell you how many times I've already been locked out of my building because I left my card in my dorm room. And she goes, I never had to worry about that at my prior institution, right? And she transferred for, whatever reasons. But that just goes to show you, like, she had it and now doesn't have it, and just how much of a mess she feels that she's in. And all the students that are coming in are going to expect the same thing.
Yeah,
And that it also raises an interesting point too in terms of like other points of interaction. So like, you forget your card, and it's like, oh, I didn't realize I forgot it until I got to the place I was trying to go. You forget your phone. It's like, ooh, oh no, let me turn around and go get my phone. And then in a lot of campuses, obviously, students, a lot of them are walking around with one of these. They put the credential in their wallet of their phone. Even if they lost their phone, their credential is strapped to them at all times. So they could just do one of these and go through the door. And by the way, different card number in the access control system than the one that's on your phone, so you can enforce anti-passback. Like there's lots of other efficiencies there.
And when they lose the phone, if they lose it, they can simply log into find my whatever, and they're going to know where it is. You lose that piece of plastic, guess what? You're retracing them steps, and if it's been a long night down on 6th Street in Austin or Rainy Street, I doubt you're going to remember where that was, right? So
exactly.
A lot of security benefits there as well, for sure. So, we got about 10 minutes left. Anything y'all looking for on the Genea side that I could probably answer, or since you guys are all HID and I'm the low Genea guy here?
Well, I definitely, like, obviously we spent so much time talking about mobile, but I would like the audience to really understand cloud and how you guys are doing it, because this is one of those things where, like, again, going back to tradition, the way we've always done things, it's like I buy the panel, it connects to my network, talks to a server that lives on-prem, and then I'm responsible, I being the IT department, I'm responsible for this piece of hardware, maintenance, software maintenance, all that kind of stuff. You guys have taken a different approach, and I'm curious, like, what you're seeing out there from your customers and from your end users in terms of, like, being a cloud-first platform.
Yeah. And you'd mentioned something earlier, the one commodity that we can't buy is time. And our system, it's great. It does a lot of cool things, and we're excellent value proposition because we breathe new life into even 10 or 15-year-old Mercury panels and even some Pro Watt stuff and all that other good stuff. But what we do a really, really good job at with our software is provide efficiencies. And it's not just the IT guy, like, no longer do you have to manage a box anymore. Yeah, we're freeing up a lot of time for you to do all those updates. But maybe that HR person who has to hand out the cards, right? Now we have a zero-click provisioning once we tie it into their Okta or their Active Directory, their Entra instance. So instead of having to go through two different systems and they get an email, literally you because you've assigned them the IT department, you click OK, they're gonna get that email with that link to go get that HID mobile credential. And day one, as Tim said, instead of it being at a university setting, that new employee gets right into that door. We just had our Christmas party in California, and we had some new folks starting. They already had their mobile credential. We were walking together to the office. We got to the door. They presented their phone. Work day one, right? They didn't have to go see HR. They didn't have to, uh, you know, tailgate with me in. They were able to get in on their own. So it truly is when you hear the pain points, it's time. Everybody's just inundated, and not just work, right? I mean, that's all we see, but in somebody else's mind, they're thinking about the other 40 things that they have to do. If I can take away two or three of those things that they had to do and they can concentrate on the more important things, that's a win. And when we start showing those efficiencies in the software and tying in all the open API that we have, the webhooks and the free integrations that we have, their eyes light up outside of IT. I mean, we've seen it countless times over and over again. IT ends up being our biggest champion because of the things that we do and alleviating that and the free 24/7 tech support. But it's all the other stakeholders that really help us close those deals. It sells itself because they see the value prop in giving them time back.
Well, let me ask you
Brandon, do you?
this.
Oh,
Oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, Tim. You go first.
I was just curious if you see in not only higher ed and other markets, like in higher ed, we're seeing a lot of centralized decisions around IT. Are you seeing that in all other areas too?
Yeah, you guys may have been in this industry as long or longer than I have been. Back in the day, it was a security guy in the office, with some old BNC analog cameras. That's the guy you went and talked to, right? IT was just like, is it going to hit my network? And that was the only conversation you had,
Right.
right? Now we know it's hitting their network, regardless of what it is, and they're the driving force. If they're not the decision maker, they have the decision maker's ear, and if it doesn't pass their sniff test, then you're not even getting to that decision maker. So IT is a huge part of what we do nowadays. And if you're not engaging with your prospective clients' IT, you're probably fighting a losing battle there.
Yeah, that's a major shift across any vertical.
Mhm.
Honestly, I know I hit on that in higher ed earlier. They're IT centric projects now.
And because of the security that happens on networks, right? That's where the money is, right? Prevention. I mean, you look at some of the companies that have had data breaches. How much does that cost them? Not just in the immediate cost, but the cost of consumer confidence, right? I mean, hold up, they got my information stolen. So now we're playing with departments who make these decisions that have bigger budgets. So now, it's no longer do they have the funds to do it? They have the funds, but do you have the product that meets that need? And showing them that, hey, you know what? Not only do we meet that need, but we exceed it.
So actually, that goes exactly to the question I was going to ask, which is how far back in terms of panel hardware can your system take over a Mercury panel?
Yeah, EPs, right? So all the old EP stuff, and we can mix and match. So let's say you have some EPs and LPs, but yet you've seen another um, solution that maybe can't mix or match. We can, right? We can do EP, LP, NPs. So we can go as far back as those old green boards.
which is great because going back to an earlier point, and the reason why you have the Jurassic campus uh, is because this stuff just works. You
Yeah.
threw an EP panel on the wall 15 years ago, and the thing hasn't died or given you one hiccup or one problem. It's like, why replace that now? I can give you a laundry list of reasons, and my buddy Jeremy Fromm, the Mercury evangelist, he can give you a laundry list of reasons as to why you would want to replace an EP. But the reality is, the thing works,
Yeah.
and it works on a vast majority of Mercury partner systems. But the challenge is, are those other systems going to be cloud first and take that EP panel directly to the cloud? And then being able to mix and match EP, LP, and now MP means that you're supporting an ecosystem that's been on the wall maybe for 6 months, maybe for 6 years, maybe for 15 years, which is
Yeah.
really nice. And then being able to tie in some of these modern integrations, like one of the ones that I really, really like, and it seems so basic and rudimentary, but again, it's about this digital native and it's about the people that are using this software now, is your Slack integration or like
Yeah.
Teams integration. To be able to get a message in Slack that says, this door was forced open, is to me a completely different approach to getting a door forced open list in your access control software. Who's looking at that? We all know, like the one of the dirty little secrets of the security industry is door forced open once, okay, I'll go check. Door forced open twice, check the video. Door forced open 3 times or more, that's background noise. I'm not going to pay attention to it anymore.
Mute.
Yeah, that's it. You just throw it on mute, and it is what it is. And that's how bad things happen, by the way, because then a door gets forced or held.
Yeah.
Nobody knew it. Nobody looked into it. And now all of a sudden we have a problem. Whereas if you deliver that message in Slack, it's like, oh, there's a door forced open, and here's video from it. And I don't have to do a whole investigation. Like the investigation is done for me. It's just fed to me in the business system that I'm already using. That's a completely different outcome of this with the same exact data.
Yeah. I think we're running up on time, but some closing questions here. Tim, what's one of the questions you get asked most about modernization of these campuses?
How do we get from point A to point B at the end of the day? And it goes back to everything we've kind of discussed today is I think a lot of people that we chat with, right, whether you're in a card office, whether you're physical security on campus, public safety or whatever, a lot of times people get it, right? They get that mobile's here, cloud's here, all this stuff is here, but it seems, sometimes overwhelming, right? Legacy hardware, technical debt, all the stuff that we kind of hit on. It's truly like having those conversations about getting from, all right, here's our environment today, and how do we get to where we want to be? And I don't think there's an easy answer to that. It's the continued of education, right? Having the trusted partnerships, advising, answering questions, just really talking through it is helpful. But you gotta get people to understand what they're doing today is, well, sure, it works, but it's not efficient, it's not secure, right? It's not modern, it's not innovative, it's not where this digital native student in my world is expecting. And I don't think campuses should be, they should be expecting, what students want, right? What is coming? This generation is coming, Gen Alpha that everybody likes to say. And if you don't build it, like, where are they going to go? To Phil's point earlier, I think before people used to say this, like, would someone really choose a university that has a mobile ID, right? And maybe if you said that 5 or 6 years ago, people could make an argument. But I think the argument changes now because if you see a Big Ten school, right, you can use that has gone mobile as an example, an SEC school, right? It's just another point that they can reference to say why. And it's not just about putting the credential in the wallet. Now they can say, okay, we've modernized our identity, right? We're very we take all this stuff seriously. Physical security, cyber security, right? IT credentials, how our campuses move from the student experience, how our staff and data move through the university. These are things that they can talk to and educate where they're going, and maybe it changes someone's mind, right? I know it would me. I have a 10-year-old daughter. I know Phil has young kids. She's going to be going into a university environment potentially in 8 years. Like, I'm in this world. I know what to ask. I know what to look for, and they're going to expect these things.
Tim's walking
it is truly
campuses like he's scoping them out like he's going to rob them. I think we all do that. I know I'm guilty of it. Like, I walk into a place, I bet they think I'm casing it every time.
But it's truly, it's an amenity now. And I think we should start thinking about it that way. So it's not just like, oh, the card gets me into my dorm room door anymore. It's like when back in my day when I was going to school, which is like ancient history. They throw up the Gandalf meme of I was there 3,000 years ago. That's how I feel. Um, but back then, amenities look different, right? It's like, oh, we have a gym. Oh, we've got ice cream social. We've got an arcade. We've got like all this fun stuff, and those were the amenities that would draw students to maybe choose your school over another. Now the amenity is, to Tim's point, around safety. I want to know that the school that I send my kid to is providing a safe and secure environment, not just for their physical person, but for their digital person as well. This is something that as parents we have to concern ourselves with. And for the student, they want the cool stuff. And so like modern hospitality is digital. It's the experience that's unlocked digitally, and the credential is sort of the centerpiece of that. It's what the whole experience is built around, and the framing for this is quite simple, in that if I offer you an app that can do all this fun stuff, you may use it. But if I say you need this app to get around campus and to have your normal campus life, well, now you're going to use it, and as part of that utilization, you're also going to pick up all of these added benefits around it. So it's really core. The credential itself is core to that new sort of modern hospitality.
And let me end on or expand on that, Phil, because this is something I talk about all the time. So you hit on it, and I 100% agree. So, I get it. Change is hard. Everybody understands that change is hard. And on campuses, we've actually seen real progress in the last decade. And it goes to what Phil just said. New buildings, right? Retrofit buildings that they're working on. They're taking care of green spaces. They're doing mental and social health awareness, like all across campuses. World class Wi Fi, right? Networks are great. And I always like to say this, like even your gluten-free, dairy-free kid would survive just fine. Like they're taking care of everything on campus except the identity. Why? They should be focused on that identity. And when it comes, it's identity, access, and credentials. I go back to what I said. We are stuck on Jurassic Campus.
I think that's my favorite line from this whole thing is Jurassic Campus.
I'm gonna make so many memes, Tim.
Phil,
I
I
have a
already
feeling that
Phil, I have one. I'll send it to you,
Oh,
and
please do.
you can help me.
one last
For
thing,
sure.
guys. And I'll throw this to Phil first, and then Tim follows with you. In one line, what does Beyond the Card mean to you, Phil?
Ooh, one line. Oh, geez, yeah, that's so hard. I'm gonna go back to something I said earlier. It's about new tradition. We have traditions of the past that have served us well for many years. Now, in the digital age, in the age of cloud and of mobile access and identity, it's time that we start new traditions.
I appreciate that, man. Tim, what about you, sir?
It's not going to be one line, but this will. I hit your point. So I said my daughter's 10, right? Fast forward 8 years. She's all grown up. She's decked out in your school colors, right? She's walking onto campus with nothing but a backpack and a phone. And if you've chosen to build what this campus should look like, she will feel it in your brand, your world class experiences, and the care for your people. So this alien, Gen Alpha generation is coming, and the only question left is, will you be ready for them?
No, man. Excellent point, guys. Man, I can't thank y'all enough. Thank y'all for joining. All the folks from HID, the Genea marketing folks, thank y'all for putting it on. Um, Dan, the engineer in the background for Riverside, appreciate you, man. Thanks for all the help. And guys, man, I hope we can do this again soon. And
Thank you so
I'm
much
sure
for your
we'll
time and
see
for having
y'all.
us.
Yeah, anytime. I'm sure we'll see y'all at some trade shows here coming up.
Yeah, thank you
Absolutely.
so much, Brandon. Thank you, the Genea team. You guys put on a great thing today for us. Much appreciated.
Thank y'all, man. We'll